Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I heard you great before. Let's talk. We'll just dive right into it since everybody knows you. And uh, I want to talk about that post I put up this morning and kind of a topic we've been talking about more lately, which is how do you, as a practice owner, provider, determine like return on investment for a continuing education course or just a course?
Yeah.
Business course, mastermind, like all these groups are popping up. And I'm the first one to say, like, I haven't taken a lot of courses lately because I know that I don't have the time to implement and take action on what I would be learning. I took Todd's course recently and it was a great course. That's the first one I've probably taken in 5 years, you know, but how do you go about measuring like return on investment, and is this something that's really going to help my business grow? Am I going to get the money back that I need plus profit?
I think some of it is so I've never owned a PT clinic, so I've never been one who's like incredibly detailed oriented on certain KPIs, but like I think the thing that it most closely that I can connect with would be it's like with budgeting. A lot of times people show up and they say, hey, fix my financial situation. So well, what does it look like? And they say, well, I didn't say, well, how much do I need to save? How much do I need to this? Like they start asking questions, but they don't really even know and monitor their behavior. So that's like the first thing I thought of is like a lot of times they don't really have a good bearing of what their trends are. Like maybe they feel desperate because it'd be kind of, I don't know how accurate the return on investment would be if you're just going through a low period and then all of a sudden, whether or not you took the course, you would have gotten better because of just ebbs and flows of business. It's really hard to know that. And I think that comes down to like long periods and precise data collection of like key indicators, because then you'll kind of know what the behaviors and the trends are. I think that understanding that is probably really important when you're looking at these courses. It's, well, what's the cost on the course? Asking yourself, what's like my minimal threshold for return? Like, do I want to see one extra patient a month, two? And then being able to chart that and know, I think that's important. Let me silence these notifications. This is annoying. It doesn't normally do that. So I apologize, but so that's probably like the first thing that I would think about when I would look at those, when I would look at that, is that they don't even have a baseline for what they're looking for. It's like, and I mean, I guess in more broad scope, it's like when somebody says, help me lose weight. All
Yeah.
right, well, what are your calories now? Well, I don't know. I don't track them. Cool. So like, what are you expecting from me? Because what I'm going to give you is some mix and magic of macronutrients so that you can get to a specific goal. But if you don't even know where you are now, how are you going to track that? And I think that's probably one of the biggest issues that I see is sometimes people are drawn by the marketing of these courses, which a lot of them are intended to do anyway. And they get so caught up on it, but they're not going into it with a realistic, in order for this course to have been worth it, this is what I have to get out of it. I don't know. Those are my initial thoughts. I'll pause.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And it's one of those deals where, I mean, at the end of the day, we're still human. We're still drawn toward good marketing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think course providers are out there trying to rip us off. I think it's one of those deals where, like you said, you know, in our perspective, $500 to me may be a ton of money. $500 to the person putting on the course might be a fraction. I go back to the value of a book. You know, you spend $20 on a book that could produce millions of dollars in revenue. The book is so packed with useful, valuable information. Books are way, way underpriced and provide loads of value. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think we're in pain sitting out here as business owners. We're running from fire to fire. We're trying to keep our heads above water. We're in a situation that we're not prepared for, per se. We've got success coming, but we don't know how to handle it, how to secure it, how to build a foundation for it. And so somebody offers something, and I think this is part of it too, is I've been led into lots of courses thinking, yes, this is the solution that I need. And it's packed with great information. But what I don't get out of it is the implementation and actually being able to bring that in. You talk about weight loss. I mean, I think that's a perfect example, because if somebody comes to my office and they want to lose weight, in the olden days, I would tell them, eat less, move more, piece of cake. I mean, it's totally logical. Of course, that's what you do. Now, though, I realize I can't tell them to eat less or cut something out unless they have the infrastructure in place to support that decision. So that when it's 3 p.m. and they're starving to death and there's nothing around them worth eating, they're going to go grab the first thing they can grab for that quick sugar rush and, get them back to baseline. I just feel like we're in pain. We see what looks like a solution, but we don't fully understand that it's not a full solution. It's more information that I'm not ready to take action and implement on.
So like that made me think of a couple of things. And I've heard it a few times. I don't remember all the circles I've heard it, but sometimes the best thing a business owner or whatever, you'll know once I say it, sometimes the best thing to learn how to say is no. And I think sometimes the appeal of these communities is so exciting, and you see the highlight reel of the people just excelling, but are they ready for it? Right. And I think, but how do you do that? I think that's why you have to have a good team of advisors, or a process, an introspective process to where you can kind of check yourself out. I think that's really important, because you need to be able to kind of pick up, have somebody be able to say, yeah, you're everything you're doing is great. Once people get in the doors, they stay, they complete their plans of care. This is awesome. You're having problems getting people in the door. Well, then when you kind of move that high level, what does that mean? Probably have a marketing problem. Is it you don't have the right person in place? Is it you don't have the right kind of marketing? Are your practices kind of dogmatic? Like, is there bad then you can start finding the area of where it is. Is it, cool, I'm doing a great job of getting lots of people in or lots of people interested in what I'm putting online, but I'm not able to convert them into a plan of care. Well, now it's no longer a marketing issue. Now it's a sales issue. Maybe that's a closing course, healthcare closing course. Okay, cool. I get them in there. I close them. I've got adequate flow. I've got a low percentage of people completing their plans of care. Well, now maybe you have a clinical delivery. Now you have like a value delivery problem. Then maybe that's where it's now Con Ed, or maybe it's some formal mentorship. Maybe it's those types of things. But like, I'll find people who they're shifting all of those variables simultaneously. How in the world are you supposed to know which one's actually helping and which one's actually hurting? I think then that's going to become an emotional decision, which then I would assume, which makes sense to me, becomes kind of a community thing. Well, I like this community better, so I'll be here, even if it's maybe not the right thing for you. Based on what you said, that was kind of the first thing that rolled off my head.
Yeah. It's funny too. I shared the story about my nephew with you a while back.
Yeah.
The nephew with knee pain. And so last night we talked to his family, and there's so many parallels between finance, business, clinical care, success. So his mom was telling us that basically he's doing great. Everything is totally healthy and resolved. And we said, oh, good. What happened? And her feeling was they found a new doctor. He got new inserts. He got new knee braces and a new set of exercise. And that's what cured him. And I just felt like, oh, please. Like, this totally has solidified that idea in her head that he needed these external devices to heal. The kid was going to get better no matter what. It was the timing. And just like you said about business, like, somebody takes a course, they lose money on the course. Another person takes the same course but has a different context around it, and they're massively successful. Was it the course, or was it because it was the timing? Everything was in the right place at the right time. They had the right infrastructure, the context around it that made them successful at that time. But it gets attributed to that course, you know, and that's one testimonial now that's going to sell lots of other people who don't have the right timing context surrounding support.
So then my question to you would be is, who do you think that does that, so this is more of an ethical question, which that always gets people a little steamy when you start talking about ethics. So then who does that fall on? Is that an awareness of the person selling the course to have qualifications of who this is best for and who this is not best for, and then disqualifying people versus qualifying them? Because I'd imagine if you have a course, you're probably marketing it, at least in this day and age, somewhat effectively.
Sure.
So isn't this the onus fall on them, or does it fall on, or is it just like, hey, this is business and you made the wrong selection? Sorry.
I think it does, especially within our circles and our communities. You know, I think if you went to that course, and this is what I think is really interesting. I think if you went to the course provider, if you took a course, felt like you didn't get the value out of it that you paid for, went to that course provider, I think they would in a heartbeat give you back your money, do something to try and, you know, produce the effect that you were looking for. I think we as the student, the purchaser of the course, kind of feel uncomfortable doing that, whether it's we're not comfortable with the confrontation or whatever the reason. So we don't do it. So instead, we kind of sit back, it festers a little bit, we get frustrated, you know, blame ourselves certainly for the failure. Like that's a common theme, and then just try to move on. But the responsibility probably goes on both parties. Like I know Ramit Sethi, like he always says, if you have any credit card debt, you're not allowed in my course. He claims at least to be very strict on who he lets in his courses. So there is an onus on the course provider, but I think the student as well. And then I just don't think we have the forums. I don't think we have the communities open to say, hey, look, I did this. It was a massive failure. I totally wasted all of my money on it. Yes, I take responsibility for not implementing. I didn't have the support system in place to implement. But at the same time, you know, I don't think I got the value that was portrayed in the marketing. And I don't know why we're so scared to say those things and call people out. I mean, it's probably a daily occurrence that somebody comes to me and says, well, I'm not going to name names, but I'm like, why not? Why not name names? You know, if Toyota does something wrong, there's going to be a line of thousands of people ready to call them out on it. I don't know why we don't hold ourselves accountable in our profession in that way.
Totally agree. I think that's, so a lot of times some of these social media groups turn into dumpster fires. So I think like that's part of the scientific process, right? Is to be able to undergo scrutiny. And the purpose of that scrutiny is to, the intent of the scrutiny is to produce a better product, service, et cetera, for the community that we are responsible to serve. And like, will some course providers, I think the natural instinct, anytime something you put time and effort into that also is generating an income to then support those that you care about or your goal, anytime any of those things are threatened, I mean, I think the hackles are going to come up, but I don't think that means we should be afraid of it. And I think that I also know that some of these guys, having talked to a number of people who run courses, they want feedback. Because if they're only ever getting positive praise, then we have a little Dunning-Kruger situation where now they just think they're the greatest thing ever. And they know that that's something, oh, I lost you, huh?
No, it's going fine.
All right, cool. All right. But that's kind of the thing is you get this group of cheerleaders and it's like, and that's awesome. And that's community and that's culture. But I find that sometimes the people who are looking to absolutely be the best, they want critical appraisal because then they can't see like you just can't see your blind spots. And so I think one, people should be able to voice that. And generally, at least the circles that you and I are in, generally people possess critical reasoning abilities to be able to identify, oh, this is somebody whose butt hurt just for no reason. Oh, this is somebody who really sounds like they didn't get what their expectation was. Like, I think that's important. I was talking to our buddy Joshua, the ghostwriter,
Sure.
and he was talking about what he does when a company brings him in to do the marketing, and he looks at everything they're doing on social media. He looks at their reviews. He says the reviews he never pays attention to, 5-star and 1-star reviews.
Sure.
Because generally that's somebody just angry, or it's somebody just giving whatever. Like, what good does it know to know? The positive stuff will exist. I'm looking to make it better. But instead we'll look at 2- and 3-star reviews, because then that means here's somebody who had an expectation and it wasn't met, and it was difficult for them to give the rating that they did. And then but we need that. Like, why don't we almost need a rate my professor for the profession.
Right.
And right. I think there'll be a little bit of lag and probably a little sting surrounding some of those. But at the same time, I'm sure some of it's going to come out as snake oil. We don't have space or room for that. If you're a business owner, you don't have time for that. If you're a clinician, you don't have time for that, because the next places it's going to get translated is into your business practice, which means you're building it on something not true or not accurate. Or if it's clinical, you're applying care to somebody that's not appropriate. Yeah. But I just think that's important, because like, if somebody came to me and they said, hey, Will, where should I invest my money?
Right.
And I have money to invest. Then I say, well, what are you doing with it now? Well, I'm putting most of it in courses. Okay. Help me out. What have you gotten from those courses or for that development? Well, I spent 20 grand here. I spent 5 grand here. Okay, cool. We're at 25 grand. What can you directly attribute to that $25,000 investment? Oh man, I made $250,000. Part of me is going to want to say, well, do you still feel like there's momentum in these development courses you're taking? Oh yeah, every one of them I take, I get something out of. I'm more inclined to tell that person to keep putting money into that, right, because it's continuing to grow and grow and grow. And once we see that diminishing return, then we shift it to something that's more automatic. Now maybe we go to something traditionally investing, and maybe that's where it's going into the stock market in some way, shape, or form. But if people are able to like know that, like then they shouldn't feel bad that they're not putting money in the stock market, getting a 5 to 10, even 15% return. They shouldn't feel bad about doubling that down and getting that kind of return on that other cash. So I think like that's one of the things that I would want to know, and that I think is more important to track as a metric of improvement since implementing those courses. But I think that takes just a real objective view, and really pointed goals, or having some sort of a mentor or an advisor, business or otherwise, who's able to look at that and hold you accountable to it.
Yeah, I think that would be a tremendous additional value to some of these programs that are out there, is before you even start, look, here are the metrics to measure success. Just like when we talked to Andrew the other day, and he was talking about not necessarily hitting the financial goal he wanted to hit for the course, but still feeling that he got the value and more from taking the course, because they were skills that he was going to carry on into the future. I think that just like a patient comes to me, I want my shoulder to stop hurting, versus a patient coming to me saying, I want my push press to exceed 225 pounds. Like, that's a clear, objective, black and white. Did we achieve that? Yes or no? Very easy to measure, as opposed to, I want my shoulder to stop hurting. Well, it kind of hurts, but sometimes it doesn't hurt, and it's better mostly. It's too vague. It's, I want to lose weight. What does that mean? I want to be rich. What does that mean? Like, we need to more clearly define our objectives for the money we're investing. This is exactly what I need to get out of this course in order for me to personally feel fulfilled and satisfied. Yeah. We need to have that documented, written down and posted somewhere. So every day we go into it, seeing what the objective is.
And I've seen Paul Goff does that. He has got something, he calls it the cockpit, where you're able to load in your metrics and you're able to do those types of things. I don't know if that was through collaborative efforts with Andrew Vertson. I don't know that, but I do know that that's something that he makes a requirement of certain tiers of people within his program in communities. I haven't been to enough, and I'm not so steeped into the community that I know all the ins and outs and intricacies, but I see people in these groups, and he's broken them off into accountability teams as well. I've seen that that's a driving metric in the conversation of, well, I'm not this or I'm not that. Like oftentimes I will see it trace back to the more experienced members, or Paul or some of his team will come in and we'll talk about those metrics. So they've created some accountability built in. I just think that's important.
Right. I agree. So before we wrap up this episode, if we're going to give somebody actionable steps to take before they sign up for their next course, because like you said, I mean, me included, I would never be in the business I'm in. I would never have the level of success that we have had I not taken the right courses at the right time. It's vitally important. And I think it does accelerate success exponentially. But the question is, you know, we don't have a framework to measure the appropriateness of a course at the right time. So I would say if I was looking at a course today and I'm like, oh man, that hits a pain point big time for my business, I really want to do this. The things that I would probably have to consider before signing up for it would be, one, do I have the time and the resources to implement the strategies that I am learning? If I am booked solid 7 days a week right now as it is, either I need to get something off my plate. How am I going to do that first? But where am I going to find the time to dedicate to implementing whatever I'm learning in this course? And then number two is, how do I measure success for myself? Is there a financial objective to say, this is the increase in revenue that I have to attribute to what I learn in this course, and I can't take that revenue from somewhere else that just happened to, you know, bump my numbers? What is it? Something that a confidence, a subjective feeling that now that I take this course, it confirmed certain beliefs and ideas that I had for me, and that's a measure of success? You know, like I think that you need to put that time and work in before signing that check, running that credit card. Or is it, which for me, and I've said this publicly quite a bit, any of the courses that I've done lately, it's less about the information and more about building my network. It's more about me connecting with Todd now, seeing what Todd is doing, paying him the price that he wants for the course that he put out, building the community with the people that I'm taking the course with, you know, and then the actual information that I'm gaining for me in that course was confirming my, you know, previous assumptions and putting me kind of in a point of, okay, I want this as a refresher. I haven't been building a team for a couple years. I haven't put any time or effort into that. So I want to just kind of refresh and refocus on my systems and processes for that. And it achieved that objective 100%. But what are your thoughts? What are the key components, the actionable steps somebody could take before actually paying the price?
Yeah, I think I think you've got to track numbers to know, is it something you want or something you need? And making sure you've got to be able to ask yourself, am I doing this? Am I looking for a silver bullet? Like, I don't necessarily think that everybody's going to identify with that question very well, but like, are you taking this course out of desperation? Because if you're taking it out of desperation, you've probably got some other stuff that you've got to look at. And then also, like you said, do I have time to dedicate to it? And then, like, I think writing those things out, almost like some sort of a journal entry, a pre-course journal to yourself of like, to keep it objective so you can reference back to it, I just think is incredibly important. Like, because if that's the case, like, it's rarely the course you're taking is the silver bullet. It just doesn't work that way. There's usually core fundamentals. And like, I think that's probably what I think question-wise is making it a process and writing out those types of things, almost interviewing and evaluating yourself of, why are you taking this course? What are you hoping to get out of it? How will you determine that it was valuable? And what are like the limit, like what are your limits? What are your red flags that will get you to stop taking the course?
Yeah, I think that's a great summary. Next time we talk, I want to get on that topic, which we tried before, of if I was gone for 2 weeks, what would happen to my business? Is it truly a business? Does it continue on without me? Of course, the original intention being, heaven forbid, something, I died. What would happen to my business, my family? Where does it go from there? I think that's a huge topic that a lot of interest and a lot of people want to know about. So if it's okay with you, next time we connect like this, I want to talk about that.
Yeah, I want to do that, but I know that I have professional biases, and that definitely falls within one of those areas. We've got a lot of feelings around that.
Awesome. So I'm going to wrap up this episode now. Thank you for doing this again, and then we'll connect next time.
Awesome.